Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Method Ministries. Today I'm joined with Paul, and he wrote an awesome book called Muscular Christianity. So it sounds super cool, and he's going to hear and tell us all about it. So Paul, welcome. And how do you say your last name? Is it Uponi if or
It's Uponi. So like once upon a
Uponi? There we
time,
go.
once upon a time, then E at the end. So Uponi. That's how I tell people.
Once upon a time, I like it. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. If you want to introduce yourself to our audience, let them know, who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Paul Uponi, Uponi. Better known as my YouTube channels, Dr. Apolli and Apolli Athletics. I've been making YouTube videos for over 10 years, like almost over half my life at this point. I made the channel when I was like
Wow.
11, and now I'm
Wow.
24. So I've been making YouTube videos for, well, I don't know if I've been, maybe it's not accurate to say I've been making YouTube videos, but I've had this channel for over 10 years, over like 12 years at this point. And the first video I uploaded where I had like my voice at least was back in 2012. So I think it's just about half my life where my first YouTube video was uploaded. So that's it's quite the accomplishment, I suppose. Been on here for a while. Um, but yeah, I have two accounts, Dr. Apolli and Apolli Athletics. Dr. Apolli is the one I made when I was like 11, and that's just why I talk about whatever is on my mind, whatever. Usually right now it's like philosophical musings, theological insights, and psychology, practical psychology. And then Apolli Athletics is the one where I talk purely about fitness. Sometimes I have like philosophy in there, but usually it's just like solely for
Mm.
like fitness workouts and like guides and whatnot. And yeah, that's about myself. I guess I wrote a book, Muscular Christianity. That's probably what you're here for.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
and and it looks like it's doing pretty good on Amazon, right? Like, is it a number what number is it in what is it, aesthetics or something like that, or
yeah.
training?
It's. I think it's still number one in philosophy aesthetics, which seems like a completely contrived category, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I look at the books there. I'm like, this is like extremely specific category, but
It
I'm number
is.
one there. So
Great, you're owning it. Yeah,
I
that's awesome.
I tell people I'm a best selling author. I even have that in my Instagram and my Twitter bio. I have best selling author because technically I'm a best selling
Well,
author.
you are in that, yeah, because 'cause you're just owning that field. So keep
Yeah,
it up.
but I think that what's more impressive is at some point, at least not anymore, but at some point I was like top 50 in Christian self help, which is like a very 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 saturated topic category. But that was only for like a few hours. I've been getting. There's been moments where I get like I'm in like the top 5,000 books on Amazon. My peak I think was top
Wow.
3,200, which is insane.
Yeah.
It was above like contemporary books like Screw Tape Letters. It was above that at some point. It was above. It was like right beside Wild at Heart. If you read that book, it's a sort of similar book on like masculinity and whatnot. So
What that was masculine Christianity? I'm sorry, that was, yeah, masculine Christianity? Is that what
yeah. Oh,
sorry, the
it
Wi-Fi is
was.
coming in and out, that's why.
Oh, it was on Wild at Heart. You know that book by John Eldridge?
Gotcha. No, yeah, that one I don't know.
Okay, well, it's a very popular book on like Christian masculinity. I
Okay.
was ahead of it for a bit. So I was top 3,000 and I was ahead of Screw Tape Letters, right? Which is everyone knows what Screw Tape Letters
Wow.
is. At some point I was ahead of
Yeah.
Screw Tape Letters. So everyone knows what that is. So it's been doing really good recently. I've got some very key endorsements, and that's sort of what's been going on my end in terms of the book. And yeah, you want to know like why I wrote the
Yeah,
book
that's
or anything
awesome.
like that, or like
Yeah,
introduce myself?
so definitely, let's go into that, because masculine or muscular Christianity is a very interesting title, and you argue that for the physical and spiritual strength of, I guess, like would you like? Is it more geared towards men, or is it like just for men and women? Did you make it one gender in mind?
Well, when I started writing the book, I guess I just wanted to talk about physical fitness, like lifting weights. But then I realized I was a bit reductive, so I changed like sports in general. Because I played a lot of sports in general. So okay, do sports in general. Although there still is
Okay,
clearly a bias towards like lifting weights. Um,
yeah,
but in terms of the gender breakdown, it's designed for people of both genders up until about chapter 12, where I have this section called masculine Christianity.
Mm.
And that's going to talk about things that are like not very, like, I guess not specific to men, but like things that will resonate with men more. Like we'll talk about like confrontation, talk about war, talk about
Got it.
competition, that sort of stuff. That starts to appeal to men more. And I know that even throughout the book, like you can kind of tell that it's like geared towards men, but it's not like explicitly geared towards men until chapter 12. But like, if you're a woman and you're listening to
Okay.
this, there's a lot of women who have actually read the book and they said that it's amazing, that it's just as, they feel like it's just as relevant for them in for most of the book.
Great. Yeah.
So I think that if you're a woman, most certainly there's a lot of female reviews. You can look at them on Amazon. There's a lot of female reviews, and they said that it's a great book, and um, they enjoyed the whole thing, even though they're not women.
Wow. Good.
So
Good. So
yeah.
yeah. So I didn't read the book yet, I should say, because I got a lot of books on my Amazon wish list. My wife would tell you all about that. I buy way too many books and everything. So, but I do want to read it and everything. But it's great to have you on because you can walk me through it. So, what is this book about? Essentially.
Okay, so the book is primarily about the intersection between mind, body, and soul, but it takes it particularly from like a physical fitness standpoint. So there's a lot of books generally on the mind, body, and soul, but very few of them will talk about it from a Christian standpoint, and even fewer still will talk about it from like a physical fitness standpoint. So I
Yeah.
talk about how physical fitness can relate to the gospel. Talk about how it's a great tool to help us come closer to God. There's a lot of critique with the book, very surface level critique. Whereas like
Mm.
Christianity isn't about building muscles; it's about getting stronger spiritually. This book is heretical, and I'm like, well, okay, you haven't actually read the book because I don't say that once throughout the book. I actually in the first chapter I said this is not the case. I say that I say that this book is physical fitness can be a tool to help you augment your spiritual life. So
I like that.
that's what I sort of argue in the book, and that's what I substantiate with everything from like psychology to philosophy to like logic uh, and all that. And then I talk about how specifically about the book. I talk about how the virtues that you gain from physicality, from sports, from bodybuilding, from that sort of arena help you come closer to God and help you deal with the societal problems that we're facing right now. Like I talked before about confrontation, how sports help you to understand competition. It helps you to um, be comfortable with competition, and yeah, that sort of stuff is largely appeals to men. So eventually, I relate back to masculinity. So in a sense, the book is like a self help, like a general self help book. In a sense, the book is also a book on masculinity, and in a sense, the book is also about like physical fitness in general. I even have a practical workout guide at the end. So like it's like a
Okay.
full
Great.
workout
Wow.
program and everything. So yeah.
What and then you mentioned some people were kind of giving you sounded like some pushback on this, like was that people in like the local church or just people online coming at you?
It's mostly people online. I guess maybe because in person people aren't really as quick to like full out they don't want to criticize you in person. It's kind of uncomfortable to do that. So
Mm,
it's mostly online. I've heard like some of it in person. If it was such a soft pushback. It didn't really resonate with me. Mostly it's online. And it's
yeah,
mostly people who haven't actually read the book. They're just like making a bunch of assumptions based on the title. And
yeah, I could really imagine that happening. Be like, oh, this isn't the Bible's not about this because you know one of the things that I'm thinking of too, with this title, the book is that how like is it sounds like you're tying in muscular Christianity with masculine Christianity.
yeah,
And like there's like an overlap, rather than just being okay, here's building muscles, you're trying to tie that into being masculine, which we think of strength, that's a virtue that you normally find in men, which is you're not wrong. Like Paul says in 1 Corinthians 16, he goes, act like men, or some translations say be strong.
yeah,
And in today's Christianity, we're taught to be weak, sadly, because we're taught this weak version of Jesus, where Jesus is a nice guy, but there's a difference between being a nice guy versus being a good guy. A nice guy will just be agreeable, he's feminine, he won't stand up for truth, He's very, he'll acquiesce to all of the compromise that the world brings. Where if you're a good man, you're going to stand for truth, and that would come to, down to the realization of that's going to exercising your not just your physical strength, but your inner strength, and that's being strong in the Lord. Like, is that accurate, or is that kind of
Yeah, that
it is
is
okay?
that is very largely what I talk about in my book. I talk pretty extensively about the passivity of Christians, how we just want to be seen as like nice guys, nice loving people. But I talk about how uh like even like some verses are like very much misunderstood. Like there's a lot of verses that say, "Oh, be weak," right?
Yeah,
Um, Nothing comes out of my head, but there's a verse that like ostensibly at least tell you to be weak. But if you oftentimes if you read immediately after, it talks about you're being weak because you're relying on God for strength. So it's like,
yes,
well, I mean,
I know
are you
which verse
really
you're
being
talking
weak?
about, where Paul says, "When I'm weak, then I am strong."
Yeah. I think it's Corinthians actually. He talks
Second
about
Corinthians
when
when
I'm
it says,
weak, that I'm strong. Or there's some other verses where it's like, I won't boast in anything, but I'll only boast in the strength of Christ. And it's like, well, like, okay, I understand why you guys like are saying that, like, on a very surface level, you want to say, Christianity is about being weak. It's about being, you don't want to be strong. But if you actually read it in its full context, even in Psalms too, there's some songs about this. If you read it in its full context, it's actually saying that you're weak insofar as how much stronger you could be with God. You're weak because you understand that by yourself you're weak compared to how much. I guess I'm saying the same thing again. You're weak compared to how much stronger you could be with God. I think that's when you read it in its full context. That's what it's actually saying.
yes, exactly. Like Paul says, in Ephesians 6, and we teach this often, especially like in children's Sunday school classes. Ephesians 6, be strong in the Lord. So it doesn't say
Yeah,
be weak in the Lord. So it's like, you can be strong, and as men, we should be strong, and I think, as men too, that should include somewhat of a physical strength, like hit the gym. Like, don't be lazy, like don't just be sitting down letting your body getting degraded and weak. Take care of yourself. Do you talk about that in the book? I mean, it sounds like you do, for what, just
yeah.
talking with you.
Like from a purely pragmatic standpoint, right? How much stronger, how much more can you serve spiritually if you aren't able to be there physically? Like how often do you have to like move things for at people's houses, for example? How much better would that be if you had like if you had strong knees, if you had a strong back? And from a purely pragmatic standpoint, that's the case. But also, I talk about in the book how the physical can represent the spiritual.
Hmm.
So things like willpower, for example, if you exercise your willpower physically, it trains you to exercise your willpower spiritually because willpower is actually kind of like a muscle in a sense. There's actually whole books on this.
Yeah.
Um, where you when you strengthen your willpower, when you strengthen when you become more disciplined in and more dutiful in matters of like waking up early and like going to the gym or waking up early and going to work or something like that, that trains you to do the same thing and have that same sort of militant approach to your spiritual life.
Yes.
That's what I highlight in my book a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, you know what? I remember John MacArthur years ago said this too. He goes, "Try to be disciplined in everything, because that will spill over into your spiritual life." Like,
exactly. Yeah,
even like simple stuff, like just Jordan Peterson says this, like, you make your bed. Like, he's not
yeah.
telling you that just for the sake of making your bed. He's telling you that because if you're disciplined in something as small as this, that's going to spill over into your spiritual life. So it's not, like today too. Sadly, we think the physical is bad if we pay attention to it. Sometimes it's bad, and that's not being Christian. But actually, Paul was always arguing with the Greeks against this, about the body, the soma, in Greek, which comes down to the fact that Christ physically arose and he's going to redeem this body. And so that was against the Greek philosophy. They thought the physical was bad. Get it away from me. I want to escape it. So Christianity was totally, coming against that, saying no. Christ redeemed the body, and or he will, one day, redeem us and raise us from the grave. And Christ is not going to do away with the world. He's going to rule the world. And so,
Hmm.
we don't have to be Christians to think like, oh, this is superficial. We shouldn't talk about this. Well, no. Did God give you your body? Yes. Should you take care of it? Yes. So God is the creator, and we should honor Him as the Bible says, in our bodies.
Yeah. I think the reason this comes up is because is like I think it's in Matthew, Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says that like don't store your treasures on earth, store your treasures in heaven. So then they take that to mean that like the things of the earth are just like bad and that you shouldn't care about them whatsoever. But I don't think that's what it's saying. I think that it just says that your priority should be on the spiritual things, which I don't disagree with, and I talk about and I justify a lot in my book. So I think people are just kind of like taking that verse a bit too far and misunderstanding it. And I think that's where
Yeah.
that the origin of that really comes from.
Would you say too? I don't know if you talk about this in the book, but I'm thinking of a sin that's not really talked about, in like the contemporary church, and that's the sin of not just like greed, but in the sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Where you gluttony? That's the word. I'm thinking of a G word, and I'm thinking greed. No, not greed. Gluttony, and that's not ever talked about in church, where it's like we eat, where you just eat too much, and like you are to the point obese, where it does come down to you. And I can understand why they don't want to talk about it, because in American culture we have obesity running
Yeah.
rampant. But in the Bible, that's not something that we should be as as Christians. We shouldn't be pursuing this undisciplined life, where the point where it's like we're in this unhealthy position where now we're obese and overweight, and that causes all kinds of problems. But we never talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. There is actually a part of a chapter 4, I talk about what is it, greed and sloth. And there is a part on not
That's the
greed,
word.
gluttony and sloth. And yeah, I do talk about gluttony a bit. I also talk about it a bit in the last chapter about how you just like kind of look like you don't take care of yourself. And if, I mean,
Mm.
you don't take care of yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, then it's going to be hard to, in terms of like a pragmatic conversion sort of outlook, it's going to be difficult for people to really take you seriously. Like, oh, you're like such a godly person, such a heavenly person, but then you look like a slob, right? It's going to be very difficult to get people to follow, to champion your movement if if you don't look like you take care of yourself, and that's a serious issue. And gluttony in general, if you read what the Bible actually says about gluttony, because I was reading it for when I was making the book, I was reading stuff on gluttony.
Yeah.
The Bible actually speaks very very poorly of like very harshly on gluttons in like Proverbs and like Deuteronomy, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
It says like, okay, if you glutton your face, it's better that you like stab yourself with a fork or something like that. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, one of the verses in Proverbs, I forget which chapter, because it goes, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise."
Yeah,
And yeah, and and so slothfulness, would be a good, better word. Even too with young men, especially like who are in the church and you want to find a wife, you should be presentable, and you should be in good shape, and people want to downplay that too, even with dating, like, oh, if a man is going to love me, or if a woman's going to love me, she's going to love me for who I am, and she's going to look past that. Okay, well, that's true, but the physical isn't wrong here. And you can,
yeah,
and if you can focus, on taking care of yourself and being presentable, because it, like, this kind of, thing isn't just something that's just merely superficial. It tells us a lot about somebody. Like if somebody's in shape, they're taking care of themselves, it shows us, okay, this is a disciplined person. This is his character is being shown through this, and that's not always a one-to-one correlation, but it's a good way or a good fruit of somebody who does live a disciplined life, and somebody who is stable, rather than just, as you said, they're unpresentable. They're being slothful, and you can kind of tell it with with their appearance, or just kind of just rolling out of bed kind of look. And again, for Christian singles too, especially if men are listening, hit the gym, pick up some weights, look good, look presentable. I'm not saying like you have to be a bodybuilder or
yeah,
look like a bodybuilder, but at least get some strength going on here.
yeah. If you just like do basic exercises and pay like a little bit of attention, not like a little bit of attention, I guess. For some people it's different, but if you pay attention to what you eat, and if you do maybe like 120 minutes of exercise, like dedicated serious exercise a week, you could look like better than like 70% of people. Given a couple months, you could look better
Those
than
are good
70% of
odds.
people. And if you just do that, it's going to help you a lot in the dating game if that's something that you are, if you're that's something that you're really interested in right now.
Do you still compete in the bodybuilding world?
So I guess a fun story here. Last year around this time, I got into a nasty car accident,
Oh
and
wow.
I'm still recovering from that. So I've actually, like, you can see me right now. I look pretty. I mean, people say I still look pretty muscular even right now.
Yeah.
Um, those look pretty fit, but I haven't worked out in a year, and I've deflated significantly. If you were to see me this time last year, I would look much bigger. So I haven't been able to work out really. I started working out a little bit. I've been cleared to like do like very lightweight
Okay.
workouts, but as of right now, I am not competing because I can't work out.
Wow. Well, it sounds like it was a pretty serious accident then you got
Yeah, it
into.
was. It was. I was on a highway. I was going like, I'm Canadian. This is 110 kilometers an hour. I think that's like 70 miles an hour.
Okay.
So it was a
Yeah.
pretty nasty crash.
Yeah, because 100 kilometers is 60 miles an hour here. So you go on 110, you said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's 70.
about 70. So I calculated a
You
while ago. It was around 70. So
Did
yeah,
you hit like a wall or something? Or hit another car? I don't know if
it
you want to go into it.
was. I was trying to turn, and then uh I guess because the roads were still kind of like snowy because I'm in Canada and it snows until like May here.
Yeah.
Um,
That
so
stinks.
um I was I was trying to slow down, but then I wasn't slowing down. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I slammed it and it wasn't working. And then my car just started, I just completely lost control of my car. And then I hit
Wow.
this like giant road sign. You know, like those road signs that are like, this many kilometers, this many miles until like this city. And it's like a really big sign so you can see it from far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those. And I just smashed into that. And then
Oof.
I was in pain for quite a bit till someone found me, and then they called the ambulance, and yeah,
Oh man. Well, praise God you're okay.
yeah. Otherwise, I would never made this book, right? Because I was in the process of making this book, and then I was like, I thought I was gonna die. So
Oh,
thank God I'm
and this
alive.
was last year you said, right?
Yeah, like this time last year. Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Wow. Did being in bed more help you complete the book then in some
yeah.
way?
It probably did. Yeah, that's one thing that's one thing that's probably true because when I was in bed, I had a lot more time to think about things, I suppose, and read more books since I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't tiring myself out there.
Yeah.
So most certainly, I would have taken me longer to finish the book if I didn't get injured.
That's how John Wesley wrote his notes on the New Testament. He was sick and laid up for months, and so he just did used all that time to give us a great commentary that people still use today. Everything.
That's great.
What would you recommend for men to as a way to build muscle? You said like 120 minutes per week. Like what does that look like? What kind of like what should I focus on? Like should it be chest one day, shoulders the next, or then squats?
Okay. So in the book, in the last section, I actually specified that you don't like need to go to the gym per se. I
Yeah,
just recommend going to the gym because that's like what I'm doing. And a lot of what I'm talking about is given the assumption that you're going to go to the gym. But of course, it talks about sports in general, like football, basketball, even like volleyball and golf. It talks about a bit. It's like a holistic sports thing, but obviously, if you read the book, there's like a bias towards physical fit, like bodybuilding.
yeah,
But I said 120 minutes because I was like, okay, well, you can like, go on a jog, do some cardio for like 120 minutes a week. That's probably really good.
yeah. That's
But
30
if you
minutes per
mean,
day.
yeah, it's fitness in general is what I was trying to go for because I know not everyone goes to the gym and not everyone has to go to the gym, obviously.
Yeah,
It's just something that keeps you. I mean, ideally, if you want like the maximum benefit, then you want something that keeps you. Okay, so there's different benefits that exercise can give you depending on the sport, right? So cardio can help your brain function. Team sports can help you with like teamwork and cooperation, that sort of stuff. And then bodybuilding can help your bones and help your muscles, help your joints. So if you want something that incorporates all of that, then you would probably have to do some sport. You have to play like some sort of cooperative sport. along with like bodybuilding and cardio. That's what I would recommend if you want like the maximum benefit. But if you just want like the minimum benefit, like not the minimum, like the minimum effective
Yeah.
benefit, I would say, then I would say you can get away with about 120 minutes, maybe like 150 minutes of like like a full body workout for like 45 minutes and then like cardio for 45 minutes or something like that. And then you can actually that equals 90 actually. So like
Do a
like a
bonus
full
day.
body workouts 2 times a week for like 50 minutes each, and then like cardio for like 30 minutes. That's 100. That's 150, 130. But yeah.
Yeah, I always, heard, from multiple people too, is that, you don't have to spend that much time actually in the gym. Some people say that, aim for an hour, but, if you go for like 30, 40 minutes, time and, just stress and tension on the muscle will cause it to grow, especially as a noob, you get the noob gains, right? Like, don't you
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
if like the first 3 months, like it seems to accelerate, really fast. And that's actually really reassuring too. Cause if you're,
Yeah.
if you can immediately, feel that rush that, that comes from the gym, being in there, like you'll feel good mentally, as well and everything. And then again, as Christians, we should, not be slothful, not be, greedy, in our food and lazy and all this stuff. Oh, and you know what? That reminds me. What do you recommend then for eating?
For eating. Um
Like to gain muscles, I guess, for men, because that's like, the ideal thing. You go to the gym, you want to gain muscles.
yeah. So what what I would usually recommend is about you should get a lot of protein. Protein has two effects. Protein will make you more satiated. It will satisfy your stomach. You'll be less hungry throughout the day. So if you're struggling with like losing weight, which I know a lot of people are, then eating a lot of protein will help with that. Protein also burns more calories to digest. So in that sense, it'll help. And in terms of how much protein you should be eating, if you want to build muscle, it is 1 pound, one gram of protein per pound of body weight. You don't have to like look in. You don't have to like count your macros too much or anything.
Yeah.
Just know what generally gives you protein, and that's like chicken breast and beef, that sort of stuff. So just take more of those and take like a protein shake a day, and you'll probably get pretty close to that. If not, you'll actually just make it. So I don't think that you need to, unless you're like really into bodybuilding and you want to like enter a competition or something like that, which is what I was doing, then you should probably count it. But if you don't want to, you just want to like get fit, generally speaking, then you can get away with just counting, just knowing, just consciously eating more protein than you otherwise would have, and getting like, I would say getting like a protein shake, because that helps tremendously. That's like a free like 30 or 35 grams of protein.
And that would be, after you work out, right?
Oh yeah, okay. If you, I would say that you should do this every day, but if you want to, if on the days that you work out, it's best if you do it immediately after you work out. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, and any other, final thoughts, you want to leave our viewers with? I'll leave you a book in the description of this video too, Paul, so they can buy it on Amazon.
Yeah. So, I guess back on like the masculinity thing, there's a lot of movies, right? Like Fight Club or like Saving Private Ryan, that
Yeah.
display a sort of masculinity that is sort of not as common now in Christianity, right? So things about like, having a brotherhood, having a like having that sort of edge, a sort of spike about you to pursue greatness. We talked about this a bit, but like a lot of Christians, they like sort of demonize the physical world, the physical world, like the temporary world that we're in right now. And they see it as like some sort of like prison. And we want to just like, oh, we just want to get out of here, and we just want to be in heaven. We just want to like let go of all the suffering. But I think if you want to try and evangelize people, then we have to tell men that that they can be. I use this phrase in my book a lot. That they can be the best version of themselves for God's sake. That they can be everything that God wants them to be. And if we, because this is like a self improvement sort of like it's a sort of like a self improvement message, right? And a lot of guys are very receptive to self improvement. So I think that with Muscular Christianity, with a focus on this sort of self improvement, become the best you can be, mentality and situating it within the ultimate purpose of Christianity, situating it within like our ultimate purpose to destroy evil and to bring about God's kingdom, bring about ultimate goodness to the world. That can really that's something we should explore more. That can really help bring men into the church, because I don't know if you know that like 60% of Christianity is female, and we love our Christian sisters,
Yeah.
we love our sisters in Christ, obviously. But if we want to have a sort of a generational movement, so to speak, a generational religion that transcends, like that persists far after we're dead, then we want to have men in it, because men are the ones who are the ones who lead society, the ones who bring about civilization, pretty much. And it's very important that we bring men in that case. So I think that with the values of muscular Christianity, the values of like strength and courage, how we can be proper role models for people. I talk in there a lot about how we can control our aggression, having
Mm.
a proper understanding of how to use aggression, not just like sheathing it, not just like putting it away forever, but like having it situated in the right place. And when it's situated in the right place, it'll actually even augment it, because we have the ultimate purpose with us. So those sort of things need to be, I think, highlighted more. And I think that my book is um, does a great job. I mean, to my own horn here a bit, but I think it does a pretty good job at at highlighting that, and highlighting its need, and getting you really fired up and wanting to become the best version of yourself for God's sake. And yeah, that will be, I guess, my pitch for the book, I guess.
Well, you know what? That's so true, Paul, because you mentioned how today Christianity is 60% female, and the reason why in the contemporary church we put such an emphasis on building relationships and building community, and then everything is just geared towards that. Even the music is very feminine, but guys don't respond to that. Guys don't really care so much about building community, but if you give them a mission to do, then guys will become brothers in arms, and that's how men get close together. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, let's just go get some coffee, let's just go get some dinner. It's no, let's go to war for God. And that is what will men resonate with, because God has built us to be certain ways. Women are certain ways in their nature, and men are another way in their nature. This goes down to how God designed us towards. And so you read books like this, like Muscular Christianity, that sounds so foreign to people, because they've been indoctrinated with this weak Christianity, which and which is a lot of it, and not a lot of it, but a part of it is slothful. And that's not just true physically, but also spiritually as well, where we don't go out there and put the work in for God, and be about advancing his kingdom and making war. And so hopefully your book can resonate with men who are either they're tired of the effeminate Christianity, or they realize Christianity is about a whole lot more than what they've been taught, where it's not effeminate. And if you're a man, this can God has designed you to be a certain way, and that's laid down in his word, and he wants you to be strong in the Lord, which is it means we don't have to be weak in the Lord. He wants us to be strong in the Lord. So that goes back to what you said. This ties into masculine Christianity. That's because God has designed us to be a certain way, and he commands it from us.
Hmm. Yeah, and also I guess one more thing is that a lot of the stuff that people say about Christianity, where I think I talked about a bit before about how like, oh, it's good to be weak, but then they don't actually understand like what comes immediately after that. There's
Yeah.
things like meekness, things like charity, things like pride, that are like sort of misunderstood. We have like a misunderstanding of what that really means, and I sort of try and situate it better that we can understand um how, like, what it really is, and like how it applies to our life. Because I think that the reason Christians are like sort of like they don't want to like say this out loud, but like a lot of them I hear a lot of in my own life, I noticed a lot of them are like conflict and like conflict avoidant, and like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
competition avoidant as well. They don't
Yep.
want to like, oh, we don't want to compete against these people, because I guess I understand, right? Because charity is a Christian virtue, and charity is like giving unto someone else what you have. But like things like sports is like you're actively taking away from them and you want to actively oppress them, as opposed to in Christianity where you want to like, liberate them and that sort of stuff. So I understand why I guess I understand why they don't like it. Feels sort of like it just like feels wrong to them, a lot of people. But I do a good job properly situating that stuff. People seem to really enjoy my uh descriptions and like my proper descriptions on that stuff and situate it in a proper way. That way you could allow these masculine competitive drives to properly flourish.
Yeah, you know what? Because what's interesting too is Revelation 21 says that cowards, on top of other sins, it says cowards will have their part in the lake of fire, and that's the only verse, to my knowledge, that talks about cowards going to hell. Because and it's interesting too, if you think about it, like why does it mention cowards going to hell? Well, if you compare this to 1 Corinthians 5, Paul says the effeminate will go to hell. Because when you're not strong in the Lord, you compromise on sin, you don't stand up for God, you cower back for him. And again, the Bible commands us to be strong in the Lord. And
Yeah,
cowards, the Bible says, go, have their part in the lake of fire, which is eternal. That's eternal
yeah.
condemnation.
It does sort of remind me of how the Bible says we need to be hot or cold. The lukewarm we spit out.
Mm.
So you got to like choose your side. You got to be on fire for God. And when you are on fire, then I guess you're not a coward. And you can just like you spread out everywhere. You're on fire, right? You spread it. Fire spreads. So
Yeah, you'll fear God, and that eliminates the fear of man,
mhm.
or whatever fear you have. You'll be courageous, like Joshua. We love to quote that verse. In Joshua, be strong in the Lord. The power of His. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm thinking of Joshua.
Be strong and
I command,
courageous. Is
be
it?
strong and courageous. Yeah, I'm thinking of Ephesians 6. But be strong and courageous. We love to quote that verse, but do we put it into practice? Like you said, we avoid conflict. Well, sometimes you got to have conflict because that's the battle of good and evil. And the
Yeah.
weapon is God's word.
Yeah, I think I say in my book actually that conflict, if avoided, becomes delayed and magnified. So, you know, we got to we got to be
That's good. I
there.
like that.
We got to just confront the conflict right now, or else if or else we either compromise or it just becomes delayed, and it's going to get really bad if when it actually ultimately does, when we are ultimately at a place where um we cannot live peaceably together. So I think
Yeah.
uh we just got to face the conflicts of the world, and we got to fight for God.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you again, Paul, for joining us. And guys, please, if you like this video, please hit the like button and share it. Just help spreads, the message, and gets the video out there. Also, too, if you want to show your support for Method Ministries, we're on Patreon, and you can be a member for just $5 a month. The link for that is in the description of this video. Until next time, take care and God bless. And if you want to buy his book, also I'll leave the link for that in the description of this video. So hit that, go buy it on Amazon, and hopefully it blesses you. And thank you again, Paul, for joining us.
No problem.
All right, guys, take care. God bless.